Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Joyce. Everyone,
Hi.
welcome to the Live Fearlessly vlog. And we have with us today, Joyce Rojas is a money mindset mentor and transformational speaker. Her impactful work focuses on helping people take control of their money lives, gain financial clarity, and create the mindset needed to succeed in life. That's amazing. We all need that insight right now.
Yeah.
Joyce, thank you so much for your time. I'm super excited for you to share more about yourself and your story and your mindset around fear and all of these great things. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Really good. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's awesome. Can you tell everyone where are you tuning in from?
New Jersey, so Jersey City. So right
Yeah,
next to New York City.
awesome. Okay, so I have to ask because of the COVID crisis experience, like so tell us, let's start out with something good. I always like to start out with something good. Like okay, tell us something you'd like to share that's positive in your world right now. What's good that we can celebrate with you? Anything.
Let's see. You know what? Actually, you brought up the whole COVID experience, right? And
Yeah.
actually, I do think, even though it's been a little bit of a scary time for many people, I think it's actually also been a beautiful time, and especially for me, I've actually been able to work from home more. I have a teenager. I have a 17-year-old, so I've been able to see him more often, and really to kind of just use this time to connecting to so many different people that I would definitely not have been connecting with because I lead such a busy life, right? So I think all of us kind of, every space that we have in our schedule, we fill it with something. And so I do the same thing. And so because of this time, I've had such great connections with people. So that's a wonderful thing.
That is. I love that. That's definitely like the whole time coming through and talking to people during the last 2 months has
Mhm.
definitely been that everyone is like, I'm grateful that my family's healthy, that I'm getting this time to really evaluate the important things around me in these moments and really just taking to be more present, which I'm like, that is a really beautiful thing that could come from something that's totally disastrous. But I love that you shared that because that's definitely something that I've heard from a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have a teenager, right? Like this is a really weird time for them. So I love that you're able to spend more time with him and get those times, especially because he's growing up and how much more time, how many more weekends do we have with our kids, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
crazy.
Yes, yes. And then I do. I spend more time with him when he wants to spend more time with me. Like,
Yeah.
he'll be like, yeah, mom, thanks a lot, but no thanks.
He knows you're there. That's good.
Exactly, exactly. At least he knows I'm
I
here waiting for him.
Yes, exactly. I love it. Well, okay, so to start out with the conversation, I love to start out by just you being able to tell us something interesting about Joyce, right? Like tell us a fun fact about you that we would just not know any other way than you wanting to tell us.
Like any type of fun fact.
Yep, it could be anything. I love fun facts.
Geez. Gosh. I'm gonna go with I love boxing. I mean, I'm not really that much into like watching it because I don't like blood flying all over the place. But like for me, I just love doing it myself just because it's like it's so empowering and just such a big anger release. And
Yeah.
back in the day, ever since I was a kid, that was one of my issues. I was like, I would just explode sometimes. So that's actually a very good thing for me. I love
Yeah.
to box.
That's awesome. See, I love that you're being transparent. Like, I used to like just like burst with like anger or whatever. That's a positive way that you've shifted something to really be a benefit for you, which I think is awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. We
That's
all have
so
our
cool.
things, right? We all have our moments, and we all have these things that we got to take control of. Some of us anger. With me, that was the thing.
Yeah.
Others, sometimes we kind of just spiral into depression quickly, or so it just depends.
Yeah. No, I love that. So, on that too, do you do your boxing? Do you do that at home, or do you normally go to a gym for that, or
I
online class, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I go to a gym, But obviously I haven't been able to because of the quarantine. The other thing is I love to Zumba.
Ooh.
So yes, I love it. I love dance. And so that's another thing that I haven't been able to do, but there is Zumba online and I've been able to do that. So that's been pretty good.
Cool.
But yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you prefer to be in person when you Zumba?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I'll tell all women that they need to try Zumba just because you have, like, when I first started to Zumba, I swear to you, I thought like, what the F just happened to me? Like, after becoming a mom, I felt like I lost my sexiness. I actually wrote an article on it, but like I lost my sexiness. And then when I started going to Zumba classes and I couldn't move my body the way that I wanted to, or like in a sexy manner at all, I'm like, what the F just happened to my life? And so I realized, like, okay, I need to get in touch with that side of me. And so that's when I actually started taking Zumba classes. I started taking lap dance classes. I took some pole dancing classes
Yeah.
because I'm like, you know what? Let me get in touch with my sexy side because we lose that as moms sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, quite honestly, I feel like that what you just said isn't just to moms either. That's to dads too. That's to all parents that like lose
Yeah.
a sense of identity going into this
Yes.
new thing, and then we're so consumed with our little people's lives that it just
Yeah.
happens. So that brings me to a question too. Like, do you in the studio that you use and the gym that you use for like Zumba, are there men in the Zumba classes?
Yeah, there are. And actually, one of
Cool.
my favorite instructors is a guy. So I mean, he's amazing. So just I do think more men should do that just to kind of get that whole mentality of, okay, dancing is for women. No, I mean, just, getting in touch with your body in some way, shape, or form is
Yeah.
extremely important.
Yeah, we all need that. We
Yeah,
do, for
yeah,
sure. I
for
love that. That's cool. So I love those are great fun facts. I love to dance just in my kitchen. I never really go to like dance classes or anything like that, but I love to just dance. Like I'm the girl that I don't have to be drunk. I just go to the dance clubs and I just dance like I don't care.
yeah, that's me. So then if we
That's
ever get together, you'll have a dancing partner.
Oh, we will get together. I'm so excited. That's awesome. So, okay, so diving in, talking about fear is what we're going to do today. And so, to start out with the conversation, tell us about a significant time in your life when fear held you back from living your life fully. What was that time for you?
I think I'm gonna go back to when I was married. So the fear of not knowing what was going to be on the other side of divorce. I knew
Yeah.
that we were not happy. I wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. We had a son. We have a son, and it was really like, to me, I was just so afraid. What was I going to do? And I really, when I look back now, I think that at that point, I was so afraid of what would happen that I was burying who I was. And
Mhm.
so, and what I wanted, and I did it for years. And so after, doing that for years, where you're burying what you really want and you're burying your emotions, and um, everything's about someone else. It's about your significant other, it's about your son. You forget who you are. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's the biggest time where I felt like fear held me back from actually finding who I was.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think so many people can relate to that with just that sense of identity that, again, like we talked about right away at the beginning, is we get consumed with the little people that we bring into the world and the people that we're raising them with, and we lose that time freedom, or I should say the boundary around our time freedom of what we
Yeah.
choose to do with it, because we've always been told that's what we're supposed to be doing too, is we're like doing all these things and going to work and having the family and go, 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 go. And
Yeah.
we do get consumed by the things that we feel like we should be doing when we need to be number one, because we can't help our family. We can't be present if we're worried about money that we're not making, or we're worrying
Right.
about the relationships outside of there that we're not fulfilling, showing up for, right? Like all that kind of stuff. So for sure can relate with that a lot, in the sense of you lose that and then hopefully you're getting it back.
Yes,
So,
right. Hopefully.
so when the fear was holding you back during that time, where were you mentally and how did you feel about yourself during it?
When the fear was holding me back, I had really lost myself. I had been so in tune with making this relationship work, with figuring out what was wrong with us, what was wrong with me, how can I make it better, that I had lost myself. The person that I was 5 years before that time frame was nowhere in sight. Joyce used to be this bold person, really, like, anything that was on my mind, I'd just say it. There was no sorries, there was no PC. I was really independent. It was just crazy, the different person I was at that point. And it was because I was trying to be somebody that, to fill this gap. I was trying to be a great mom, the best mom ever, because that's what we're supposed to be, and I was trying to be such a great wife, and I was trying to be a great worker, and I was trying to be a great leader at work, and everything was for someone else, and I had lost what it was that I wanted to be, what I was, what the values that I was so, just so focused on at one point.
Yeah. So what I just heard is like perfection. Perfection is something that so many people, especially parents, like, we stop ourselves from doing things because we let the idea of perfection and like being not just a good mom, not just being a decent person, but like great, like exceptional. We always need to be like going for perfection, and that really stifles us from making the right choices or just taking action on them at all, I feel like, because we are really paralyzed by the thought of we have to be great at it or it's just not worth it.
Absolutely. And you know what's the sad thing about it that I've realized is we do that to our children. So we pass it on, this idea that you have to be perfect, this idea that you have to get straight A's, because if you don't get straight A's, then you're just not good enough. You have to, clean your room and be neat, because if you're not, then you're just not good enough. You have to, anytime that, you make a mistake, it's like, what's wrong with you? And I do think that perfection, that mindset of perfection, we pass on. My parents passed it on to me. I pass it on to my son. I can't sit here and say, oh, I'm a perfect mom, I didn't screw up with my kid. Absolutely, I screwed up with my kid, so I'm sure he's going to have some emotional scars that come directly to me. And so, we do that.
All lessons.
Yeah, we do it because we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, everything is a learning process, right? The mistakes, that's what I look at them as. And to touch on the point of what you said about, like the failing or the passing, like tests and stuff like that, like I think about school and how that's actually programmed in us by our culture of just like, what is it? 68% is like a D or something, like in the learning curve. It's just like, it's a low grade. Like if you go into the world and you do 68 out of 100, like that's not failing. And the way that we are like programmed from the very beginning, not just our parents, but everybody, is talking about how those things are failures, when in reality, it's not a failure. It's effort. And when we keep going, that's where the imperfections are okay. Like nobody is perfect.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, when you were breaking free from the fear, and so then I guess, you shifted into obviously having the divorce and the separation and moving to the next phase of all of the family dynamic stuff. So when you were breaking free from the fear of, the unknown about the other side of divorce, tell us about that new direction and like how relationships shifted for you. Did they improve? Did they decline? Like, tell us about relationships during this time for you.
Well, I'll tell you what actually made me shift. out of that, because I was in this zone where I was stuck fearing of what would happen without my husband. What would
Yeah.
happen to my son without his dad around? What would happen? Like, all of these, can I afford things on my own? So everything was just going through my head, all these fears. And what I call them now, or I call them shitty what ifs. We fill our brains with a bunch of shitty what ifs. We think of the worst case scenario and we live there, and we create more and more stories around those shitty what ifs. So I was living there. And one day I actually, in the middle of trying to figure out this whole thing, this divorce, and do I want to go ahead with it? Do I not? All of that. I go to work one day and all of a sudden the electricity just goes out. And I remember thinking, that's weird. Like, that's never happened. And so I figured, all right, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. So I leave my office. I'm crossing the street to get a cup of coffee. And as I cross the street, I get hit by a pickup truck. And I remember,
What?
yes, I get hit by a pickup truck. And I remember the thoughts that went in my head at that moment. When I thought I was going to die, I remember the first thought was, is this it? Was that all to my life? I just felt like I had been bamboozled. Like, what? Yeah. That was it? Like, how could that possibly be it? Wow. And the other thought that just haunted me, like even when I was like on the ground waiting for paramedics, I kept thinking it. What kind of morning did I have with my son that day? Because that was the time when I was already, we were separated. And so I was living like a single mom. And so I remember single mom mornings are like tough, because mom mornings I think are tough, where your anxiety is running at its peak because you have to get somewhere fast and your kid's not moving fast enough. And so I remember thinking to myself, like wondering what kind of morning I had with him. I didn't remember whether it had been a good morning and I had seen him smile, whether it had been a morning where I had made him cry. I remember dropping him off and he always gave me a hug, but I couldn't remember that hug. And so it really bothered me that the thing that I cared about the most in my life, I did not remember. And then I realized during that journey in my life, that time frame, that I was going through the motions, that I was just going through life, sleepwalking through life. And that accident, although it was like a little dark time, or you could see it as a dark time, was such a game changer in my life. Because that's when I realized, you know what? Hell no, I can't do this. I can't, just continue to sleepwalk through life because I'm afraid. And so I made a huge shift in my life. I actually, after that time frame, I sold my house, and it was at a loss. So I sold, it was during a recession, by the way. It was 2008 recession. So
well, gee, that's timely conversation, right? Like, so many people can relate to everything you're talking about. Absolutely. How many people are probably going through the struggle of figuring out, like, do I leave this person? Is this toxic relationship? Is this not beneficial to my children? What is going to happen if I can't pay my bills and like I separate, and like all of the things that you're saying. There's so many people that are having this struggle right now. So again, like, so grateful that you're telling this and sharing this in this timely manner. It's just like perfect, I'm sure, for whoever needs to hear this. So continue. So carry on.
Yeah, in middle of a recession, I had to sell my house at a loss. So I had purchased it, I don't know how many, maybe 2-3 years before that, at a height. And so selling at a loss, I sold all my things in a garage sale, and I just packed the car with my son and a cooler. And then I came back to New Jersey because that's where I was from. And so I remember coming back, and I kid you not, I went from a beautiful house in California to a apartment the size of a dorm room. I'm not even kidding, with a child. And it made me feel like such a big loser. Like, what the hell was I doing? And in that time frame, just that journey, probably within about 5 years, I had quadrupled my income, like quadrupled my income.
Wow.
I had gotten my MBA, my master's in business administration as a single mom. I had purchased a couple investment properties. It was
Woo!
awesome. It was, and then I had found my purpose and said, you know what, I'm moving in this direction. And so there was so many things that changed in my life when I finally said, you know what, fuck fear, fuck it.
Yep.
I'm moving forward, you know? And so that was the difference. It was the mindset that I had before and then the mindset that I had after that made such a big change in my life. So with your question about relationships, did relationship change? The biggest relationship that changed was a relationship with myself.
Yeah. Wow. Clearly, that's amazing. So, I mean, okay, so how long were you married for?
7 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were in California, you took your son back to Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and you did school, you tripled your income, like all of these things. And like all I can think about is how you released this part that you were so afraid of. You released that fear and we're just like, I'm gonna go and do it, whatever it is. And then so much opened up for you, right?
Absolutely.
You released the feeling of like you were just clenching so bad to like figure it out. And then it opened up everything for you to just know like abundance in
Right.
everything.
Right.
Like that is so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the big things that I tell people, you know, fear, this may be a little controversial for some people, but we don't know, like people believe in heaven and hell, right? And I was raised Catholic. I wasn't born Catholic. I was raised Catholic. And so heaven and hell is this big thing, but what if, you know, this is heaven and hell right here where we're living right now, and you create it. You choose heaven or you choose hell. You choose to create your world or you choose to make it a hell with your choices. And what if your hell is living in fear? Because that is hell. You know, if you're constantly fearing something, you're not living. You're not. And so that, I think, you know, whenever I feel fear now, because I can't sit here and say, oh my gosh, I never feel fear. I have a really strong mindset, but I can't say I don't feel fear.
Yeah.
When I do feel fear, I have a process that I go through in my head. And I'm like, okay, I'll take myself through that process and then be able to see, where's this fear coming from? Because that's extremely important for people to do. A lot of, you know, trainers, coaches, they're like, oh, you just, you know, feel the fear and move through it anyway. Yeah, we get that. But that's a little hard to do for some people. And it's important to know really, where does that fear stem from? You know, and what thought process are you going through? And so to take you through that versus, oh, stop, you know, like, I don't know, you know, let me not curse. But anyway, like stop being a baby, you know, stop being a baby and just go through it anyway. No, you have to kind of see, all right, hold up, let me take a step back and let me follow my fear for a little bit so that I can find more about myself.
Yeah, I love that you're like, oh, this might be controversial, like talking about it, because I look at fear very differently than people. And so the blog, right, Live Fearlessly, to me is all about having the fear and doing it anyways. And to expand on that, the controversial part for me is that I talk about fear, like my speaking engagements and stuff that I do, I talk about fear as my best friend. Like that is how I've went through my life. And you're talking about going through the questions that you have in your mind about when you feel your fear, because it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Because we have the little and the big stuff in our heads every single day. It's just a matter of if it's big enough to actually be a conscious fear or just something that's passing by and it's just gone before we know it.
Right.
So I talk about fear as your best friend, really, really seeing it in a different way so that I'm not like, it's not a fearful, like, oh, toxic. I talk about, is
Right.
it toxic or beneficial that it's a fear? Because everything has fear. It's just, is it a toxic one or is it a beneficial one that's going to help you grow and pushing you for better? Or is it keeping you stagnant and stopping you from reaching for who you're meant to be instead of who you think you should be?
Right, right. And you're right. And you know what? You could use fear as your best friend if you follow it, right? So if you figure things out about yourself, you're going to learn a lot. But if
Yeah.
you keep thinking, oh, I shouldn't be in fear and, this is bad, and, you just make yourself out to be someone that is weak, that's not going to help you. So I don't agree with sometimes just the way it's like, okay, yeah, I get that you're afraid. Let's just do that anyway. I get that. Yes, we should always take action, but we should also learn about ourselves in the process.
Yeah. Those questions I think that you mentioned are super important for people to like walk through a process. So that brings me to my next question, which is like, what advice would you give the viewers about, walking through that fear or questioning it? Like, what advice would you want to give them?
I think that I'll share the process that I go through in my own head,
Yeah,
and
that'd
maybe
be great.
that'll help. So what I do is, let's say I'm feeling something. And this can go for any type of emotion, anything, but let's use fear right now. So let's say I'm feeling fear about something or anxiety, and you can feel fear when you're feeling anxious or stressed. It typically comes down to fear. And so you're feeling this, and my process is, all right, what am I feeling? So ask yourself what you're feeling. Okay, I'm feeling fear. Why am I feeling that way? What's the thought behind that emotion? And so I ask myself, what's the thought? Okay, the thought could be, I don't know how I'm going to make it without my significant other at this point. I don't know how I'm going to financially pay for all this. I don't know if I'm going to find anybody better. I don't know if I'm going to find someone that loves my son the same way. All of these fears, right? That's the thought behind the fear. And then you ask yourself, with all those thoughts, is it true? Is there 100% no doubt in your head that it is true? Are you not going to really be able to pay those things financially? Is that 100% true? You can say that? You can't. There's no way.
Right.
So then I look at the other side. What's the possibility? Okay, the possibility is that I can. I shift my shitty what if. That's what I call shifting my shitty what if. And the possibility is, hey, I can't, what if I can pay everything on my own financially? What if he was actually holding me back? Right? What if I find a guy that will love my son no matter what and spends more time with him than his own dad does? What if, so all of these things that you can just shift it so that you can position yourself and visualize a different side of your what ifs. That's the process I go through.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I love that. And that's true. Like we have to walk, like you said, really being able to see where it's coming from and ask those questions specifically, like, what is it? And then assessing, like, is it true? And what if it was, what if it wasn't to stop you? What if it was a beneficial fear to
Right.
push you into that right direction? So yeah, totally on point with exactly like the process that I go through too. And then the next question that I ask myself is like, how can I take action on it right now? So you mentioned action
Love
is
it.
always great. And that's the last question that I totally ask myself is, well, how can I take action today to know for a fact, like looking at assessing it, and right, we go through this in our mind, not necessarily writing it down. I'm a write down person. So if it's something big, if it's a big fear, something you really have to sit with, then write it out, right? And think about these questions.
Right.
But then the last question I would always ask is like, well, how am I going to take action on it today?
I
Whether
love
it is a
that.
toxic one or a beneficial one, there is some kind of an action that we need to take in fear. So that's another one too, is like how.
I love that. I'm going to add that to my process.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So Joyce, the last question that I love to ask people too is I love being future focused, right? We're being present, but always reaching for more and knowing what we're going for. So where excuse me, where do you see yourself 5 years from today? You know, now that you have these tools that you use going through fear from before, and especially now in these times, you already know the process that you went through with such hard things that were in a personal level. This is a global level now that we're at currently. But so with that, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, now that you know how to live more fearlessly?
I see myself speaking and inspiring to millions of people, you know, and just really helping them. My vision is to help people find the beauty, power, and purpose within themselves. And then so that in turn, they can help others to do the same thing. So that's my vision. In 5 years, I expect myself to be inspiring millions of people, whether speaking, books, YouTube, however, that's what I see.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. And okay, so speaking of YouTube, where is the best place for the viewers to connect with you? Where would you like them to come find you?
Awesome. So I do have a YouTube channel. If you look up Joyce Rojas, I'll be on there, and it's Master Your Money Mindset. So that's the channel right now. And so you can find me there. You can also find me on my website, joycerojas.com, LinkedIn, I'm there. You look me up, you'll find me. Instagram, the handle is at the Joyce Rojas. Facebook page is the same, at the Joyce Rojas.
I love it. She's visible, people. Go find her.
You'll find me. You'll see my face.
I love it so much. Okay, so in wrapping up, is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers with around fear, around mindset, around money mindset? Anything you want to give us as your last nugget?
I'm going to say that I want you to remember that since we were kids, were pretty much positioned to think in fear, you know, and even biologically we're positioned that way because we have a survival instinct, right? We have that fight flight mode. And so then our mind immediately wants to keep us safe. That's what it's trying to do. So it's like, okay, thank you, mind. You're trying to keep me safe. And the way that it tries to keep you safe is to continue to have you do the same things you've done in the past because it's accustomed to that. So anytime that you try something new, your mind's like, whoa, stop, hold up. This is new. I don't like it. You know, this and this can happen. So remember that we're just biologically positioned that way. And then also society has positioned us that way to live within this damn box that we've been given. And so when you feel the fear, just ask yourself, okay, wait a minute. What is it that is kind of stopping me right now? Is it my fear of what people are going to think about me? Is it my fear of maybe I can't do this? You know, what is it that's in your head? Because there's different types of fears that are holding you back. But you have to remember that this is something that's just been kind of put in your head since we were kids to kind of just walk in this certain path. And when you're outside that path, someone's like, nope, can't do that. But now we're adults. We don't have that, nope, you can't do that. It's in our head. So stop being that person that makes you walk that certain path. It's okay to go off the path and maybe you'll fall and you get back up and you keep walking and maybe you go the wrong way sometimes, and that's okay. You know, if you make a bad choice, you can always make another choice. That's it.
That's right. And learn from that. That's good. Get
There
back up, dust it off,
Yeah.
look down, see there's a root there and don't trip over it again.
There you go. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you. That's awesome. But I do want to say thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Joyce. This has been
you.
so great, and sharing your story and knowing that you quite literally have been in this real mindset before and you've walked through it and you tripled your income and you've done these amazing things. You're raising an amazing human being. Like, Guys, reach out to Joyce, connect with her, see how she can help you. If you are having any of these, if any of this is resonating with you, please comment. First of all, let us know your biggest takeaway from the conversation. We would love to hear that from you. And again, Joyce, thank you so much for your time. This was amazing.
Thank you. I'm so happy
Totally.
that you had me on.
Yes, thank you so much. And everyone that's watching, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Have a great day, guys.